Daily Mail has this story. 3 Brazilian cannibals cooked their victims and turned them into pastries in a real-life version of Sweeney Todd. The sick trio killed their victims and used the flesh to make stuffed pastries known as empanadas that they sold to neighbors. Now, the trio, a martial arts expert, his wife, and his mistress, told police they were part of a sect that preaches purification and reduced population. They also said a voice told them to kill evil women. A CNN correspondent reports on their tactics.
So they basically lured young women to their house in northern Brazil by promising them a job as a nanny. Police were first alerted when the suspects tried to use a credit card belonging to a victim.
When police went to the house, they found a 5-year-old girl who led them to 2 bodies in the backyard. They estimate the number of victims may be as high as 10. One of the suspects even wrote a book about a 2008 murder. A writer for Inquisitor has an excerpt. Looking at the now lifeless body of the evil adolescent, I feel relieved. We dine on the flesh of evil as a purification ritual. We bury the remainder in the patio. The story keeps getting weirder. Police believe the 5-year-old girl actually belonged to the victim written about in that passage. They also say during the deposition, one of the suspects claimed to have sold the human-filled empanadas to schools, hospitals, and even one of the police officers. A writer for Gawker says that just adds insult to injury. As horrifying as the murders and cannibalism are, surely the worst part of this story is the empanadas. First, because the neighbors had no idea they were eating people, and second, because the killers actually made money selling the empanadas. Neighbors of the trio reportedly burned their house down after the story broke. I'm Jim Flink for Newsy. Multiple sources, the real story.
So there you go. You have these Satanists in Brazil killing people, putting their flesh into food, sacrificing people to purify the world. It's considered criminal. They went to jail. The world is shocked. But when a father sends his only son to be sacrificed and then eaten alive, it's considered okay and holy. The word cannibal came from Baal, eating Baal. And so this idea of eating food that was once a deity has ancient origins all the way back to Egypt, where the priest would make a messed cake, transubstantiate it from Osiris into the bread, and then they would eat their Savior. The Eucharist is the same situation, where the priest blesses the bread. The prayer of consecration turns the bread into the living flesh and blood of Christ. According to the Council of Trent, it is not a symbol, but it is in fact the living soul of Christ, the living flesh and blood. And the wine is his blood, and you're drinking that. You're drinking real blood. And if you don't believe that, according to the Council of Trent, well, you should be cursed. But so this sacrifice and this cannibalism that is accepted by the world, by Christianity as good and godly and holy, when it was practiced by these Satanists in Brazil, it's immediately condemned. They're sent to jail. People are flabbergasted. But how come they don't have this reaction when a father sends his son to die, to be murdered, to be beaten, tortured, and then eaten by his followers in order to purify the world? What am I missing here? What are you missing? Is it okay that when we sin we have to have something die? Do Christians know that when they go to communion, or the Catholics know when they go to Mass, that they're actually eating a human being? They're practicing cannibalism. They're practicing an ancient rite spanning centuries. That the word cannibalism came from eating Baal. the deity, the Son God, shall we not realize that the story of the crucifixion is nothing but trauma-based mind control? Anyway, that's something for you to think about.